Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the library tour of Doom. This is an ongoing library tour of all of my books, past, present, and yet to come, on which we're going through one book at a time, one book for each video, instead of one shelf for each video. So we're going to be doing a library tour for the rest of our natural lives. uh, and today we're going back to 2018 to a particular kind of thing, a particular gem that I love. I've talked on this channel before about how I have a whole bookcase just out of camera range here, floor to ceiling, of books about books, collections of essays, collections of reviews and prefaces and whatnot, by all kinds of writers who do that type of work, usually throughout their whole career on and off, while they're doing the stuff for which we know them. And today is an example of that you might not know, but it brings a smile of joy to my face. This is Stephen Akey. And this is his book, Cultural Fever. And this is a collection of book reviews and book essays and second glance considerations of authors and musicians, rock musicians and whatnot, whatever comes to Stephen Akey's attention. And it's beautiful. He is a fantastic, fantastic writer. I don't think the book has blurbs on the back, but no actual description. But I can I can look at the table of contents here. You've got Catullus and Horace. You've got John Berryman, Emily Dickinson, W.H. Auden, George Meredith, Wallace Stevens, Wordsworth. So a broad spectrum of the kinds of literary considerations that also fill that bookcase. Literary considerations going all the way back to Samuel Johnson, and this is a classic iteration of that subgenre. It is Stephen Akey writing about these things with lots of consideration and a good deal of wry humor and lots of dot connecting, so that you're fascinated the whole time, especially if you know the authors that he's talking about. There's one point, for instance, when he's talking about Thomas Hardy and the fact that Thomas Hardy fell in love with the woman who would become his second wife before his first wife died, and that is reflected in the poetry. And he writes about it. At the end of the sequence, he's no longer answering, he's no closer to answering those questions than at the beginning, but along the way he reclaims the past that many a year of indifference had seemed to invalidate. Maybe in his life it wouldn't have hurt Hardy to focus on the present a little more. His second wife, Florence Dugdale, to whom he had fallen in love before his first wife died, and who was none too pleased with the poems of 1912, 1913, certainly thought so. Her name was Emma. But what made Hardy a difficult husband for both wives, an inwardness that inclined toward an idealization of the past at the expense of the present, helped to make him a great poet. The conflicts he couldn't resolve in life play out in the work for the benefit of all his readers. Or at least for my benefit. I have my own Thomas Hardy problem. The woman much missed, in my case, won't call to me, and any call from me will go on forever unheeded, unacknowledged, and unreciprocated. So it's nice to know that the right kind of language can counter, if not overcome, the wrong kind of silence. It certainly did for Hardy. Although Emma was, strictly speaking, dead, there was no reason he couldn't use his poetic gifts to invest her ghost with speech, which he does in the next poem, Your Last Drive. The words she speaks to him are remarkably comfortless, but that's because in the chronology of sequence, she's not quite underground just yet. She will be soon enough. In the fourth stanza, Hardy has Emma matter-of-factly foreseeing her own imminent demise and their eternal separation. Later, when she's quite unmistakably dead, she will speak to him more gently, but for now, certain bedrock realities must be acknowledged if Hardy, a bedrock atheist, is to have any hope of posthumous reconciliation. You see what I mean? I know that's out of context just a bit, but you see what I mean, that is a big, inventive, and playful brain at work considering these things that you may or may not have read. That is a thrill to read. That is the whole reason that bookcase over there exists, because that gives me more of a thrill. That is, in a way, on a much loftier level, but still, in a way, that is my own profession being done just wonderfully. And there's an extra thrill that I associate with this author and this book, because I first came in contact with Stephen Akey's writing when he submitted pieces to Open Letters Monthly, the online literary journal that I helped to found and where I was a managing editor years ago. Open Letters Monthly ran for 10 years, and we had a task before us. First just 3 founding editors, and then a bunch of editors that came on and came and went as time went on. And that task was very simple, and that was to assemble an issue for the first of every month. And you might think that's no big deal, but it is a big deal. And any of you who've ever tried it, it starts to become a large sub-theme of what you're thinking about at any given moment on any given day. And by the 15th of the month, I, anyway, as managing editor, was looking frantically at that upcoming table of contents and wondering how thin it was going to be, whether it was going to be full, how workable the pieces that we're getting are. Are they some editors could be counted on for content every month, myself among them, of course, and some editors had friends who always were thinking about writing pieces. Open Letters Monthly was fairly well regarded from fairly early on in its life, so it had an attraction even though we couldn't pay. And when you're in an endeavor like that, Open Letters Monthly was not the first endeavor like that I was in, but it was the one that lasted the longest. And when you're in an endeavor like that, when you are someone on the masthead looking at that, and you've got a deadline, and it's coming up, and it can't be missed, and it can't be skimpy or weak, then you're always happy when a really strong writer sort of comes out of the blue and starts asking if they can submit things. And that's great. That's a wonderful feeling. If somebody is strong or somebody sends you a piece that can be brushed up and made to work, that's wonderful. You're happy with that. That's part of what being a hands-on editor at a small journal is like. But there's an extra thrill when that net of entanglement, that net of interest and response brings in a writer that you're not just happy you're getting, but proud to publish. That's an extra feeling. It doesn't happen often. You can't command it, obviously. You can't make it happen. But when it happens, it's a thrill. It's a thrill that maybe no one other than working editors ever experiences, where it's not your own work you're proud of. You're proud of presenting the work of someone else to a reading audience. You're proud of getting it and being the one who gets it, of course, because Stephen Akey submitted a piece on W.H. Auden for Open Letters Monthly. He wasn't giving that piece to anybody else. He wasn't selling it to anybody else. He wasn't doing anything else with it. We were showing it to the world. And that felt, when you get an author like that who is just world-class talent, you're so happy. It's just so fulfilling. It makes the whole thing feel really worthwhile. It's worthwhile anyway. There are in an endeavor like that, especially if you're doing one issue a month for 10 years, there are going to be weak issues. There are going to be issues that, that the thrill of the day of publication comes out and you feel it and you're bubbling with that thrill. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, it's thrilling that we did it, but this was a weaker issue than some others. But when you have a strong issue, and when that strong issue includes a writer like this, that just fate seems to have just given you, how wonderful a feeling that is. It's just a wonderful feeling. Every editor hopes for it. And later on, when time had passed, Stephen Akey made those pieces and pieces that he'd done in other places into a book, which everybody should do. Everybody should do that. And I know that I have no grounds to say that, since I've been promising to do that about my own work forever and not doing it. But nevertheless, everybody should. How many times on this channel have I mentioned some author, known or unknown, famous for something else or completely forgotten by history, spent years writing book reviews that are never collected and that now can't be found? How many times have I bemoaned that? Nowadays, every author can do that. And they should. Absolutely they should, because future generations are going to want them to have done that. So I was extra happy to get a copy of this book back in 2018. Extra happy, extra proud. And I found it when I was patrolling shelves for something else, and I saw this out of place, because this actually belongs on that bookcase of books about books and whatnot. And that means that bookcase is now every bit as overcrowded as it was before I moved all those books, before I doubled the space. It has somehow blown up into filling that space and overfilling it. So Stephen Akey breaks the camel's back, and now I must find another space for all of those books. I don't think I have a bigger bookcase. I think I'm just going to have to split it up somewhere. But anyway, that's your book for today in the Library Tour of Doom, a fairly personal one. A writer that I helped to publish, and that is extra thrilling. So we'll be on to other things in the next Library Tour of Doom. Who knows what that will be? I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.